and welcome to the Public Safety Committee meeting. Today is Friday, June 13th. Friday the 13th. However, it is very good luck for the Kings tonight. So today is Go Kings Go. All right, so with that, we don't yet have a quorum, but we can go ahead and get started. I want to thank my colleague Mitchell Farrell for being here. Thank you. Good morning. Good morning. And we'll have a number of consent items that I'll go through first unless there's any objection. We'll go ahead and move certain items, and that'll be approved with recommendation from the chair. We'll bring those back if we have a quorum for consideration. But we do have some cards as well for public comment, and we'll go ahead and wait on those until we either get to those items or have a quorum first, whichever comes first, and if not, we'll just take them either way. So with that, would like to take item 5, 6, 7, and 8. 5, 6, 7, and 8 on consent. We're going to go ahead and continue item 2. I understand he couldn't make it here this morning. Also on consent, item 9. And if there's any reports from the CAO, we'll adopt those as well on any of those items or technical amendments. And that'll be the order without objection?
No objection.
Okay, so that'll be the order.
Very good.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you so much. With that, we can go ahead and take item. Well, we have cards on item 1. 3 cards on item 1. So I'm going to wait on item 1 for a moment and see if we have another member to show up. And if not, we'll come back to it. Item 3. Mr. Nicholas Roxborough? Not here yet?
He's not going to be here today, sir. He has out-of-town plan.
And we'll hold that in committee as well. Item 4.
Item 4, communication from the mayor relative to the appointment of Mr. Maraf Islam to the Police Permit Review Panel for the term ending June 30th, 2018 to fill a vacancy resulting from the resignation of Mr. Steve Robinson.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So tell us a little bit about yourself. Have you served on a commission before?
No, this is the first time.
Excellent.
Good morning. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to introduce myself. My name is Maruf Islam. I'm a proud Bangladeshi American. I have a beautiful wife and 3 adorable children. I was the former General Secretary of Bangladesh Unity Federation of Los Angeles. I am current president of Dark Club of Los Angeles and founder of LA Bengal cricket team. My wife and I operate a small business, and I'm currently employed at Hollywood Roosevelt Hotel. I hope to bring my diverse background and unique experiences to the board. I will work hard with my honesty, incorporate with others. Before I make any decision, I will cooperate with everyone on the board. I look forward to working with everyone on the board and move Los Angeles forward.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Just a couple questions, since we didn't have the opportunity to sit down before this as well. One, I'm always interested to know where do you live? What area of the city?
Oh, I'm sorry. I live in Koreatown, and between Little Bangladesh area is a very crowded area.
Oh, terrific. Okay. And you said you mentioned you're in employment, and you also own a small company. What kind of company is it?
Oh, Hollywood Roosevelt Hotel.
Okay. Oh, that's terrific. And how did this come about, the appointment to this? How did the mayor select you? Did you have a relationship somewhere there? Did you just apply online for a commission appointment? How did that come about? Have you been active in the community for some time?
Yes. I love to do a lot of voluntary job. I love to do helping people and get involved with others, especially during my term of Bangladesh Unity Federation when I was the General Secretary. I was engaged with many different program, event, and there was a lot of mainstream politician was there, council members, and we worked together. Also, I was actively involved with mayor campaign, and we have over 50,000 Bangladeshi in Los Angeles, especially this area.
Yes.
And we have a very good connection with each other, and we have a very strong voice.
Got it. Excellent. And let me ask you this. What is your understanding of the position for the commission, what this commission does, and what kind of research have you done so far, and why do you want this particular commission?
This is my learning process, and as far as my understanding, we're hearing the people concerned and taking the decision before they are going to get the permit or not. And it's the subsidiary panel for the police commission, and we have a 7-member board member, and we have to take the decision or they will get it or not, or suspended for the permit.
Excellent. And the most important question. You have 3 kids. What are the ages of your kids, and how long have you been married? You said you have a beautiful wife, and so congratulations on that.
Thanks for asking me a beautiful question. I've been married since over 7 years.
Fantastic. Congratulations. And the ages of your kids?
My first one is 4.5, and my second one is 2 year, 11 months, and the third one is 1 year.
Oh, wow. A very young kid. Fantastic. A young family. Terrific. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Well, you certainly have my support as well, and impressive background and community activism, and certainly knowledge of what the process is as well, and welcome on board, and appreciate your volunteerism as well.
Thank you, sir.
Turn it over to my colleague.
Just a few quick questions. Can you take us through your interest and your experience in relation to public safety, just with your volunteerism? And
Yes, it's a very interesting and honorable position for me, and since Mayor Garcetti appointed me this honorable position, I will try my best to communicate with each board member, and we work together. And before I make any decision, we'll working. I'm sorry.
it's all right.
Yeah.
And Mr. Islam, I imagine your experience at the Hollywood Roosevelt, has been very informative in terms of the pressures that are put on that block in terms of special events and permits and public safety issues. Can you tell us how that experience has informed your thinking?
Yes. Excuse me. Thank you. Since I'm working in the Roosevelt Hotel, I'm in the customer service. Every day I meet with many different people, many different culture, and I have a very good customer service experience, which one I can provide to this panel. I think it helps us to promote Los Angeles.
I think a customer service perspective is really important as well. And lastly, you're the founder of the Bengals cricket team. Where are you going to invite us to a match? I've never seen a cricket match.
Thank you. I'm excited to invite each and everyone. It's a cricket team. It's very popular in South Asia, especially Bangladesh,
Sure. India,
Pakistan, Australia, England, and some other countries. Especially, we have a very prominent cricketer in our team, the LA Bengal cricket team. It was founded in 2009. We start with 5th division. Now, every year we promoted, and now we're playing in division 2nd. And one day, I hope our LA Bengal player will play in the U.S. national cricket team.
Fine. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. All right. Well, congratulations, and I certainly have our recommendation. It'll be, we'll go ahead and move. It'll be a recommendation from the chair, and with support of my colleague. And you are scheduled for council on?
I have not received a date yet.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
But I will confirm
We'll let you know.
with the governor's office.
fantastic. I think, I'm sure Richard will let you know when we'll bring you into council.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. All right, and then since item 1, the individual is not here, we'll continue to hold that. Oh, you're here now. Oh, terrific. Okay. Well, we do have 3 speaker cards on and it's probably on all the appointments, I'm guessing, but I'm not sure. So we'll go ahead and bring those up first. Connie Rudder, followed by Janet Gutner. If you all 3 want to come up at the same time. Oh, those are on special 1? You guys on special 1 or item 1? You didn't write special, so. Special 1. All. Did you all want 3? All 3 of you are special? Well, you all are. You're all special. You're all special. Okay. So I apologize. We can't. Well, we technically could take you already. Well, why don't we go ahead and since you're sitting there.
Will we see the presentation first, or?
If you'd like, we can do that.
Actually, I think that would be better.
Sure. Nope.
That would be
Consider that done. Your wish is my command. Okay. So then we'll go back to item regular 1. Stay on the regular agenda, and let's finish that off if we can. So please, Mr. Sandoval, come on up.
Good morning.
Good morning. You heard the questions?
Yes.
All right.
Sort of.
Shoot away. Fantastic.
Jose Sandoval. I live in Panorama City. I've been part of the neighborhood council for the last 7 years. Been involved in CPAB. Been involved with different activities with the LAPD mission station.
Oh.
This position, I'm very excited to be part and to give somehow to the city of Los Angeles my expertise and whatever I bring to the table.
Well, it's great. You've been involved in, already you said a lot with saying a little. Tell us about what do you do for a living?
So I'm a big animal advocate. I started a nonprofit called the Latino Alliance for Animal Care Coalition. It's a coalition of community members in the San Fernando Valley that care about animals. Some people say that people don't care about animals because they live in underserved communities, but we actually do care. I started the nonprofit. That doesn't pay my bills, though, but I do work for Spay Neuter Project Los Angeles, which is based out of Van Nuys, and we have another clinic in San Pedro and Pico Rivera, and I do their outreach stuff for them. Go out in the community, try to get people to spay neuter their pets because it's really important. That's what pays my bills.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic. And you've been on the neighborhood council there for how long, you said?
7 years.
So you've dealt with nuisance properties. You've dealt with all kinds of issues that you'll be dealing with now, and you've got a long familiarity with a lot of these issues. Oh, that's terrific. Excellent. Excellent. Well, you'll be a welcome addition. It's nice to have that as well in that experience, so I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Mr. O'Farrell.
You are a man after my own heart, Mr. Sandoval.
Thank you.
The fact that you are devoted to the care and well-being of animals, and you also place a priority on public safety, I think is just a great thing to hear. And the fact that you've been on your neighborhood council board for 7 years tells me that you can deal with anything. So, thank you. Well done.
Excellent. Well, you have our recommendation, then we'll go ahead and approve as well.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations. No, thank you very much. Okay, we'll go ahead and go to item 10.
Item number 10, Emergency Management Department report relative to identifying Department of Recreation and Parks facilities which have been identified as emergency centers and how additional locations can be identified for this purpose.
Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Anna Burton with the Emergency Management Department. We have several reports before you this morning.
Yeah.
And they came out of our budget hearings. The first is on shelter locations. So the report this morning contains the list of the shelter locations from the Recreation and Parks Department that have been reviewed and assessed for ADA compliance and suitability for use as an emergency shelter, a family assistance center, a reception center, or simply an evacuation site should we need to temporarily house residents or the members of the community in an emergency situation. Also attached to the report is the listing of facilities that have caches, either from the City of Los Angeles that we have purchased or in close coordination with the American Red Cross. And I think what I'd like to, emphasize is the location of the caches or the sites. It's all dependent on the situation at hand. So we will look at the site, we'll look at the event, and the collective identification between emergency management, police and fire, recreation and parks, and the Department on Disabilities during the time of the actual event will really make that identification and selection of a suitable site to house the population during the situation at hand.
How often are they updated?
The list, sir?
Yes.
This is a recent assessment by the Department of Recreation and Parks, most recently due to our ADA program citywide, and they will continue to do that and update that, which is why during an event, we look and we do an assessment of the facility at that time to make sure that if there are any needs or accessibility issues that need to be addressed, we do that on site.
Terrific. And are these lists shared with all of the local partners and neighborhood councils, CEMP?
No, sir. This is the first time this list has been published. And primarily, we do not want this to get in the hands of the public per se, to have that assumption that just because that's the closest facility to their house, that would be the site that's selected, as well as the caches involved. We may move a cache, or it may be used and relocated for temporary replenishment or for inventory purposes. So we do not want anyone to make the assumption that that would be the site selected in any event.
I see. That makes sense. And though with that, are the sites being shared with all the council offices as well, so at least they would have an idea of where those would be?
It has not at this point. When it goes to full council, that will be the list of the facilities.
Okay. Terrific.
But based on ongoing construction or maintenance or the identification of new facilities or remediation of existing facilities, this site location will change.
Okay. And then, yes, those. And what is the process for communication with all the first responders in terms of the fire department and the police department on the ground, so they have and they're all aware of where those locations could be?
During an event where we need to evacuate or house the population because of an emergency, the incident commander would actually call the American Red Cross initially, and their process and standard operating procedures would to be call the Emergency Management Department duty officer, who would then in immediate notification work with the Department of Recreation and Parks and the Department on Disability to identify the closest, most suitable location. We've been using this process for several years, and recently we've actually finalized the paperwork, and all those SOPs are in final review. We've been working with the police and the fire department to make sure their incident commanders understand that process. They have, for many, many years, notified the Red Cross immediately, and through our partnership and written agreements with those organizations, we understand, and that SOP process has been very effective. Most recently used in Monday for the North Hollywood event.
Yeah. Excellent. Mr. O'Farrell?
Thank you. Are these locations selected as one of the criteria population clusters, for example? I don't see one in the East Hollywood area, and that has the most densely populated neighborhoods in the city. Obviously, a site has to be appropriate to accommodate an emergency and evacuations. But could you talk a little bit about that in terms of selecting priorities?
The sites that are listed are based on the Recreation and Parks assessment of their facilities, whether they be recreation sites or senior centers. So this would be based on their tiered approach, the most accessible and suitable facilities today. This does not exclude the identification or use of other facilities, like through the Los Angeles Unified School District.
Okay.
That would be a secondary choice based on, again, the incident, where it is, and the suitability. If it was an earthquake, any of the facilities we've identified in advance may be damaged. So it's based on the incident at hand.
That's a great answer. I appreciate that. And maybe as this moves forward, that could be some information that you could provide just as an accessory to this report, so that it provides a full context about emergency location options, so people don't get the wrong idea that this is it. Is that doable?
Absolutely, yes, sir.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Then that'll be the request requested information to do that as well, and we'll go ahead and move the report onto the full City Council. And then while you're there, we could jump over to item 11.
Item 11, Emergency Management Department report relative to expanding emergency preparedness training to individuals who work at proprietary departments who are not city employees.
Okay.
Yes, sir. So this report before you today is specific to the Disaster Service Worker Program. We were asked to report back as to how to provide this training to the proprietary departments and others. The Disaster Service Worker Program was rolled out last year. We have worked with all city departments to make sure that non-sworn personnel take the online training, or if they don't have access to a computer, being able to have those departments roll it out to employees at their facilities through a DVD, and then, as necessary, update their oath form, and those are within their personnel folders. The ability to train non-city employees for individuals would be based on scene. We've developed some just-in-time training that would be rolled out immediately. We have that material now. It was just received last week, and we'll continue to offer that training and develop the procedures to train supervisors within those departments that would roll it out, specifically how to support individuals with disabilities and access and functional needs, how to support shelter services, evacuation sites, or any other services for the general public in the event of an emergency.
And do we anticipate, do we have an estimate of how many individuals we're talking about in terms of non-employees at those locations?
No, we do not have an estimate. One of the questions was how to train contractors and those companies, and we certainly can provide this just-in-time training to those. But as an organization under contract, they are not classified as disaster service workers. Disaster service worker through the state law is employees, public employees that are paid. If a contractor is employed, they would be brought in as an organization and paid, not a volunteer. Only individuals that come in and want to volunteer would then be brought in. They would sign the documents that are necessary to ensure that they're covered under the state's workers' compensation program.
Got it. And how long is the DSW certification good for?
Indefinitely.
Oh, it is? Okay.
We will be holding refresher training,
Okay.
and we are working with the personnel department and all of the departmental personnel officers to make sure that new employees receive the training within the first 30 days of employment, and we're tracking those figures and reporting accordingly.
Got it. Excellent. Okay, excellent. With that, then, we'll go ahead and, we haven't heard back, though, on the proprietary departments. We're going to come in and talk specifically. There was a request from the harbor and I believe the airport to come report on this as well. And I don't believe they could make it in, and they're putting that documentation together. So why don't we do this? Rather than moving on to council, we'll go ahead and continue it here for 60 days, allow them to report back. Those are the ones that are probably the most sensitive and critical for this as well. So we'd like to hear from them on this. We'll continue that then, I think, for 60 days for that. Okay. With that, we'll go ahead, since you're here, on item 12.
Item 12, Emergency Management Department report relative to the city's emergency preparedness programs compliance with the ADA and other state and federal laws. This matter has also been referred to the Arts, Parks, Health, Aging, and River Committee.
Okay.
So we are in our third year of our working with BCFS within the City of Los Angeles to review and revise our emergency operation plan and our annexes, to review city policies related to emergency planning specific to people with disabilities and others with access and functional needs, as well as looking at and evaluating departmental procedures, standing operating procedures as to how field activities occur. We are in the review process with our court-appointed expert, BCFS, in looking at those departmental SOPs and the final annexes to our emergency operations plan. We are on track to be compliant and to report such to the court by November of this year.
No, thanks.
Okay. And when you say we're in compliant, and these were the two various grants that we've gotten, I believe, right?
No, sir, this
No.
is city-funded. This
So
is
these
based
ones
on the
were
lawsuit
city-funded. Okay.
and our ADA compliance.
Got it. Okay. And I would imagine that because of that, they are independently auditing where we're at on this as well for compliance. Is that correct? You say we're
The court-appointed expert is reporting quarterly
Okay.
to the court as well as to the plaintiffs who get copies of all the information. And we're working in direct coordination with the Office of the Mayor and 17 operational departments who are directly involved now.
This was from the 2011 court decision?
The 2009 court decision.
Yeah. Excellent. Okay, then we'll go ahead and note and file the report for that. Send that on to full council as well. And that will then take us to, if you want to stay there, item 13, which I believe is the final item on the regular agenda. And this is on the metrics used to measure community emergency preparedness. So if you can walk us through that as well.
I'll go ahead and read the caption here. Emergency Management Department report relative to the metrics used to measure community emergency preparedness. This matter has also been referred to Budget and Finance.
One of the core missions of the Emergency Management Department is to work with all of the communities and the whole of community to make sure that we identify the needs and work to prepare those communities. A number of ways that we do that are through public outreach and education, doing community workshops. We have active efforts with the nonprofit organizations, with the faith-based organizations. Our website has a number of pieces of information, and we also, through the attached report, we demonstrate the effectiveness, our outreach and working with the communities to provide emergency management coordinators to go into the field and provide presentations. The effectiveness can be measured in several ways, but I think the primary will be in our next disaster, how prepared is the public, and what will that preparedness show in terms of their resilience, how quickly we can respond, how they use the information that's provided by the city, and the general response, and how fast we can recover.
Okay. Let me ask you this. In terms of, we've got basically, and those are the two metrics we've come up with. The percent of department emergency plans and how many city employees have completed disaster training. Are there others that are being considered or have been considered?
I'm sorry, metrics for our department, sir?
Correct.
Or, yes, we have several metrics that we're working with the Office of the Mayor now. One is the status of the Disaster Service Worker Program and the percentage of employees trained, the status of departmental emergency plans, the use of mass notification and registration. There are several changes to that program now, and we're working to make sure that the metrics actually reflects the system to be used, as well as an emergency management assessment of the City of Los Angeles through the Emergency Management Accreditation Program hosted by FEMA.
Okay. So one of the things, maybe come back with some other ideas as well, in terms of outreach material that are distributed to various community events through the Community Emergency Management Division, things that we could, are we meeting goals and developing and evaluating the impact of those outreach events, some tangible outcomes in terms of interaction with the general public are some things that I think we'd like to see. And various emergency preparedness events, how many have we done throughout the year? What's the participation citywide? How do we start quantifying that? Perhaps we can tie it in as well to working with the fire department on CERT certification as well, and how many classes are being offered, how many people are signing up throughout the city. So some of the other perhaps things to look at are partnerships with internal city departments. We've started reaching out and developing cross-pollination amongst departments with police department and fire department and EMD in terms of CERT training, things like that, more emergency management systems. So perhaps I would ask if we could ask the CLA as well to come up and report back and work with you on some other key metrics that we can start looking at developing baselines for with some goals and objectives that are measurable. One of the ideas of developing performance-based initiatives is looking at all the core functions of specific departments. We'll be doing this with every department, and we ask for all the metrics to come back from both police and fire, EMD, every department citywide. We'll go to the various policy committees. You're the first coming in on a metric, so I really appreciate it. And Anna, you're just doing a phenomenal job there, so I really want to thank you. And in fact, the reports that you've brought back were, you're one of the first in all the policy committees that were prepared. And maybe that's a matter of emergency management, and that we're prepared to report back so quickly and to the policy committee immediately right after budget. You were right on it, so on all of these items, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
I think that we should hold that as an example to the other departments as well, and so I want to thank you for that. And so doing a deeper dive on these, happy to get your input and expertise on what those should be in working with the CLA. Start looking at, what are the kinds of outcomes that we want to measure in terms of all of those issues: preparedness, effectiveness, training programs, emergency plans, and developing those key initiatives. And it doesn't have to be too many. I mean, 3 or 4 more that make sense. But I would like to get it from your perspective and your input and working with the CLA and come back and whatever time frame you think that makes sense. And if it's 60 days or 90 days, I would rather take the time and do it right than rush it just to bring something back.
Thank you.
So this
Thank you,
matter will
Mr.
be
Chair.
held in committee pending.
So, we will, but I'm going to allow my colleague for a few words first, please.
You are doing so much good work on this, and there's so much evolves in terms of updates and new information and trainings, et cetera. So much going on, in other words. And my question is, you have clearly you have lists of all stakeholder groups, whether it be neighborhood councils, neighborhood watches, improvement associations, nonprofits, you name it, across the city. So my question is, and I should probably already know the answer to this, so forgive me, but I don't. Do you have a regular, like a quarterly newsletter or a bi-monthly newsletter that is very simple and very readable to provide all the groups across the city that take on the responsibility for emergency preparedness updates, so that should a catastrophe occur while all this is happening, that the communities are as prepared as they possibly can be at every moment based on how this evolves and how these services can improve, whether it be the locations, et cetera. Do you know what I'm asking? Am I making sense?
I think the question is, and the answer is no. We do not publish a regular brochure. I know that the councilman's office does produce regular emergency updates. We have heavily relied on social media for immediate access to information. Mm-hmm. We have a website, Ready LA, that contains preparedness information, hazard information. We have a departmental internal website that we are ensuring that all of our plans, as they're updated and approved, will be posted. But we do not have a regular outlet to release information on all of our programs through all of the means.
Because the average person goes about their lives, and the thought of a disaster or catastrophe is out of sight, out of mind, and then something happens and they don't know what to do, where to go, who to call, et cetera. So I would just think that if some sort of consistent and continual communication piece goes out into the world so that these groups who have their own databases can then just distribute on a regular basis, that has information about how to access the website, the latest developments in emergency preparedness, the latest tools that you are creating on a regular basis, could be easily obtainable. I would think that you could serve a larger population that way if people have a regular reminder, whether, like I said, be bi-monthly or quarterly or whatever. And I think one sort of global, consistent form of communication that people can always look to would be very helpful.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, so maybe those can be part of looking at those key metrics as well, and what we should start looking at in terms of measuring and initiatives. Very good suggestions. And when would you like to come back and we can work through some of those and come back with some further recommendations? Is 90 days
Absolutely.
reasonable? Oh, okay.
More than yes.
And we'll go ahead and schedule that for 90 days. And that'd be all right. Thank you so much for everything. You're terrific. Okay, with that, I believe that concludes the regular agenda. I'm sorry. We do have one card for public comment on the regular agenda. We can go ahead and take that now. And in fact, Noel, if you want to, Noel, come up. And then you've got a card on item 1 as well. So I'll just stay up there for that, and we'll go in right to that unless you wanted a presentation on item 1 first, but you probably already have your remarks ready.
Well, actually,
knowing you.
I'm curious to see what's contemplated by this.
Okay, we'll start your clock on public comment.
Thank you, Chairman. I appreciate that. I wanted to basically bring to the committee's attention again the issue specifically of the Rancho facility, 25 million gallons of butane, 2 12.5 million gallon tanks. The community's been monitoring the situation, and by the way, just as a follow-up, I don't know if your emergency preparedness protocol that you just discussed deals with the Port of LA at all, because if not, it should. The Port has a risk management plan that they approved apparently last August, although I'm not aware that Mr. Labange or at Mr. Buscano's request or at Mr. Buscano's insistence has scheduled council review. And we're talking since last August. Ditto the Port Master Plan, same deal. I think it would be a logical tie-in in terms of how the Port manages its assets, the risk analysis, if it's maladministering, it's the management and administration of its assets that exposes the city to risk. I think it's an important consideration for this committee, as well as trade and tourism. More importantly, though, what I wanted to bring to this committee's attention is, I think, more important, aggressive public safety protections for the people. I think the city of LA should pass a law that says we don't do business, we shouldn't do business with entities that are financially insolvent as going concerns. I don't think you would do it with your own personal property. It doesn't make any sense. And the facts based upon FERC, Federal Energy Regulatory Commission filings of Rancho's overseer, if you will, Plains LPG Services LP, shows that the entity is a going concern, is financially insolvent. It loses about $1.5 million a year. They're not in a position to respond to damages. We need some public discussion on this, and I think at a minimum, out of that public discussion, hopefully will come a policy that says the city of LA, through the port or independently, should not do business with such entities, barring some kind of guarantee, insurance, something along those lines. Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to speak.
Thank you so much. And with that, Councilwoman Martinez is here as well. Welcome. Thank you so much. And so for all the items, we'll go ahead and reconsider those items for council. And if Ms. Martinez wants to call any of them back, we can certainly do that. We'll go ahead and that was item 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, except for those ones that are held and coming back. And so that'll be with a full quorum, so they don't have to have another public comment in the full council. And are there any of those that you'd like to call special, or should we revisit that after we get through the special agenda?
Okay.
Whatever you'd like.
Do item 13, because I have one question.
We did item 13, and I don't know if Ann is still here, but on item 13, we are going to bring that back as well in 90 days. We've asked for additional metrics to be developed. And so do you have a recommendation or just?
No, I just wanted to if they were going to coordinate with each of the council offices as they continue to do the outreach.
Okay, so if we can note that from Ms. Martinez as well, that we'd like to see that come back when it comes back in 90 days for discussion from the department as well to coordinate with each council office.
That's all I have.
Perfect. Okay, so we'll go ahead and add that to the item as well. Fantastic. That will then recess the regular agenda, and we'll open up the special agenda. There are no general public comment cards for the special agenda, so public comment for the special agenda is closed. There are two items, items 1 and 2. Items 1, and if we can open it up with John Larson from Mr. Buscaino's office. And then we'll ask for the department to come up as well.
Good morning.
Morning.
Thank you, members of the committee. John Larson, Legislative Deputy, Councilman Buscaino's office. As many of you may be aware, almost 2 years ago, this committee met in the harbor to examine the issue of liquid bulk storage facilities located in the city of Los Angeles. And as a result of that meeting, the CLA's office generated a report which took a look at all of the respective motions that have been generated over basically the last decade, as well as all the other reports, as well as taking into consideration the role that the city, state, and federal agencies take a look at when examining facilities that store large quantities of hazardous and or flammable materials. What the report focused on in particular is what we as the city examine to ensure the safety of the public when it comes to these facilities. In particular, it examined what role the Los Angeles Fire Department, who as the lead agency tasked with enforcing state regulatory law under the California Accidental Release Program Prevention, or CALARP, we took a look at what it is that they're doing right and what it is they're not doing. And what the report identified is that the fire department is very successful at ensuring that these facilities are in compliance with state and federal regulations. However, what they have had a difficult time doing is making determinations to the public what it is they do in the name of public safety and what it is they do in the course of these inspections and how we relate that information to the general public. As a result of this report, Councilman Buscaino has opted to pursue the creation of a CalARP website, which will be hosted on the general Los Angeles Fire Department webpage, and that will allow the fire department to sufficiently explain what it is the CalARP program consists of, what it is the fire department does to enforce state and federal law, and give the public a better opportunity to examine what the CalARP program is while providing links to the other state and federal regulatory agencies, as well as give them the ability to have a contact within the fire department to better explain how the CalARP process works and how they can go about getting information that, in accordance with federal law, we simply cannot make available to the public. In talking to some of the folks who work for the city and in the industry that pertains to these particular materials, they've identified that prior to September 11th, 2001, a lot of this information was readily available. However, in light of the changed security environment, the Federal Investigation Bureau and other federal agencies have since asked that this information be pulled from a lot of websites. So the information is still out there, but there's some additional steps that folks have to go to, in particular for the look at the risk management plans that a lot of these facilities are required by state law to have on file. You have to come downtown, file a non-disclosure agreement, and are not allowed to make photocopies. But the information is available. So with that, we've been working very diligently with the fire department for the better part of 9 months now to put into motion the councilman's desires for this website. And we don't look at it as a static piece of information, as either regulatory disclosure requirements change or as federal law allows us to potentially share more information in the future. We look forward to altering it as such, but for right now we believe it's a good step in the direction of making more information available to the public and to communicate what work the fire department does in the name of public safety.
Great, excellent, thank you so much. With that, we can go ahead and open it up for public comment. I'm sorry? We could. We just heard exactly what the process was going to be. Does the fire department have anything to add to that? Or did he cover it all?
We have a presentation to demonstrate the website.
Oh, great. Okay. Let's go ahead and go through that as well.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate it.
I didn't have that in my notes, so I apologize. I blame the staff.
But forgiveness is divine.
I forgive them as well. Yes, absolutely. Thank you. It says TBD, presenters. Are you TBD? To be determined? Okay. Good morning.
Yeah, I guess we are. Good morning. Mark Storms, Fire Marshal. As the Fire Marshal, the CUPA program the unified program is under my jurisdiction. The request to develop this website on the surface seemed like not a real big deal, but it turned out to be a much more complex issue as we got into it. And I want to thank John Larson and the staff at CD15 for all their assistance, along with we had MIS in this group, we had the city attorney assisting, we had CD15, the CAO, and the CLO, all working on this issue as we developed it. Obviously, you have the concerns of the corporate safety, but with the 50 CalARP facilities, which are in this program, the idea was to develop some transparency, public transparency, and to make the information available. And it came with some challenges, but I want to thank Hanny Malky to my right, who's the Coupa manager, and Anna Oliksik, who is the risk manager for the Coupa program. And we're here to demonstrate the program as developed for public access to the information relative to those 50 CalARP facilities. And I'll turn it over to Hanny and let him walk us through the presentation.
Okay, thank you, Chief. Hanny Malky, Coupa Manager. Like the Chief indicated, to follow up on the motion, we created a work group and we worked on it for about 9 months to come up with the web page to make sure it does comply with your intent is. When we created the web, again, City Council was involved, CD15, our City Attorney, Chief Legislative Analyst, our MIS, and there was one group, I'll probably remember it later. But what we decided to break it up because we figured the most important thing is our community information, how we relay information to the community. So we broke it up to two elements. The regulated business resources, which is our regulatory overview, and it matches, and I'll go over it when we go to the community info, but the regulatory overview, the CalARP program regulation, and the regulation is there, which was one of the elements that was requested, and any guidelines that we follow. And we follow our Regional 1 LEPC, Local Emergency Planning Committee guidelines, and they're all in here. So all the regulation and guidelines are here. One of the elements that the City Council requested, or the committee had requested, is a facility inspection history. And we upgraded our system in March, where we enter all violations electronically to our system, and every Friday we will update the website with the information. So it'll be semi-live data. Every Friday it'll be updated. Basically, we have, like Chief indicated, we have 50 facilities. All the facilities are there. And then the last inspection that was conducted on the facility, if there's any outstanding violation, and the last update. What the last update is for is that if we inspected a facility on a certain date and there were violations found, for example, we inspected this particular facility in June of 2012, and they've corrected all the violation by 5/27/14. So that's what the intent. And again, this is a mock-up of what the website is going to look like, but that's what we have.
When do you anticipate going live?
If we get your approval, we're ready to go live. We just want to make sure that actually it addresses your concerns in here, but we're ready to go live.
And what type of facilities will be included in the website?
Okay, they're
The
CalARP,
ones that are under?
under our CalARP program, which is the riskiest facilities within the city. And the state regulation has what they call regulated substances. And if you have a certain amount over the threshold of these regulated substances, then you fall in the CalARP program. And we have 50 of these facilities in the city.
50?
50, right. And again, instruction, what it is, and if you need more information on how to review our RMP, which wasn't one of the concerns, the process is there, and I'll go over it. So this is inspection history that we'll be publishing. The regulatory overview, it tells where we get our authority from and what the regulations are. And we had hyperlinks. We tried to make it as simple as possible so people could understand it. However, we included hyperlinks. For example, I talked about the regulated substances, You could click on it, and it gives you the federal regulated, all the regulated substances, what the quantities are. And the same thing with the state. The state is more restrictive than the federal. Our thresholds are less, and we have more chemicals in it.
So these are just current facilities that are conducting business. These are not, you're not monitoring Superfund sites or highly toxic sites that have been.
That's a
totally
totally different program. Again, the CalARP program is to minimize the likelihood of a release of hazardous substances, and if there's a release, to reduce the impact on the public. We have, if there's any new facility that would have to produce a new RMP or resubmit their RMPs, which is required every 5 years, we will announce it on our website that it is available for 45-day comment if anybody wants to comment on a specific RMP. And lastly, we have fact sheets. Right now we have the 4 fact sheets is relative to the CalARP, which is our inspection enforcement, what a risk management is, what an emergency response program is, and how they could comply with it. Again, depending if it's a emergency response facility or non-responding facility, and what they need to do to coordinate with their local fire departments. And then we have the public review process, which we've adopted for review on RMP, which we adopted the U.S. EPA process of reviewing RMP for the public. Also, we've included external useful links to other agencies that deal with these facilities. Some of them deal with RMP or other elements for the facility, not necessarily just RMP or CalARP. And that's what we have. I don't know if you have any comments or if you need me to go a little bit more detail into what we have.
You know, I want to thank the committee for the support to go in this direction. It was a task that was difficult and time-consuming, but I think as we look at it now as a finished product, the transparency and the ability for the community to see what we do and what the requirements are is going to be to the benefit of everyone. And we've always, quite often, the fire department works behind the scenes. You know, they don't see the training, they don't see the preparation. But this is an opportunity for the community to see the efforts, ask questions, and have the ability to see what we do in these facilities.
Okay. Well, we'll go ahead and take comments and questions from the public.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. 3 cards. Mr. Weiss, Scutner, and Connie Rutter as well. Ms. Rutter. Thank you for your patience this morning as well. Since this was on the special agenda, we couldn't actually start it until 9:45. So I appreciate you sitting through the rest of the meeting.
Well, we appreciate the opportunity to
we'll go ahead and
put it on. Yes.
I'm assuming you'd like the ladies to go first?
You know what? I will defer to the ladies, absolutely. If the ladies...
I would rather have him speak first, actually.
Fantastic. All right.
Okay. Well,
there you go.
There you go. All right. Briefly, I think, and again, the opportunity for openness and transparency is obviously a plus, no question about it. What the fire department is doing, but the question that was left open is, what is it that they do under this CalARPS program? Essentially, that's a program that requires the filing of risk management programs, and they pretty much monitor it. I don't know, specifically, and the fire department hasn't told us, the fire marshal is a very important position, by the way, and the city can really move forward. This is a good foundation upon which to build, but it is minimal, council persons. And specifically what we're talking about is federal violations that the fire department is supposed to inspect. What is their power? It is limited. And I think you need, if you want clarification on that, I think it's relevant that you basically ask for an opinion from the city attorney's office, formally and in writing, saying, what exactly is the fire department empowered to do under state law, under federal law, under local law? Honestly, you don't know. I don't believe they have any power to basically shut down this facility. You can give them that power. You can require them to post a bond. You can require them to provide operational integrity with regard to specific blast zones. I mean, there's a lot more that you can do, but you obviously need to be informed about the facts. Now, more specifically, and this is a point that I think it's important to maintain, the implication is, the fire department can enforce these federal regulations. Well, in March of 2013, the EPA cited Rancho for the following 6 violations: failure to include in the rail storage area of the site its risk management plan, failing to adequately evaluate seismic impacts, failure to address the consequences of a loss of city water for fire suppression in the event of an earthquake, failing to timely conduct timely internal inspections of the tanks, failing to develop an emergency response plan, failing to include a drain pipe and valve in a containment basin. Now, those are regulations. I don't see anything where the fire department has shut them down or enforced. Do they have? So we have a specific instance with regard to this facility. Let me finish my sentence real quick. We have a opportunity here with specific violations by the EPA that, by the way, are still outstanding, and the fire department supposedly has inspected this facility. Well, what's the outcome? Can they shut them down? Can they do anything?
If you have it, if you want to submit it, you can do that as well.
That's it. Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Chairman.
you.
Appreciate it.
I'm Connie Rudder, and I worked for the oil industry, and I, in that capacity in environmental control, and in that capacity I went to meetings where the regulations that were the previous set of regulations were discussed, and it was then the CUPA was formed. The fire departments were always there at those meetings, so this was more like 10, 12, 15 years ago, and they always said, we cannot do this job. And that is exactly what has happened. The fire department has been saddled with a responsibility that it would take a massive agency to do, and they were supposed to do it with their existing personnel and budget. So I give them a lot of credit for trying to do something that is impossible. And one of the things that is impossible is to regulate this facility that we're talking about that has a risk that cannot be satisfied, cannot be made safe. And if you don't believe me, I would love to submit to you information that comes from the American Petroleum Institute that gives specifications about this particular facility, which is Rancho LPG. And it's because of the nature of the material that's there. It is not in compliance with not just the EPA regs. It's not in compliance with rationality, because this stuff is so dangerous that once it gets out, it will definitely explode. It will definitely kill people. It will definitely take out our port and the Long Beach port. And that's really about all I have to say, unless you have some questions. But ask them fast, because 2 minutes. Do you have any questions?
I appreciate you coming here this morning.
Pardon?
Appreciate you coming here this morning. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. Good morning.
Hello, Janet Gunter. This Rancho LPG issue has been going on for decades, and I think that the points were just made were well taken, and there's not a lot to add to that, except that there is more evidence on our side about the vulnerability and the volatility of this facility than you can possibly imagine. The U.S. Prominent expert on blasts and disasters in this country is Professor Bob B. from UC Berkeley. He's looked at this facility. He has looked at the data and all the information on it. And I just want to read you from an email that I'm going to submit some materials that Professor B. says. He looked at these reports. The reports do not provide a comprehensive analysis of all the associated hazardous facilities. Given the close proximities of the various types of hazardous facilities, there is high potential for domino system failure effects. Failure of one facility leads to failure of another, etc. This is in a hornet's nest of other chemical and hazardous facilities. The potential for disaster far exceeds anybody's imagination. This potential really rivals something of the magnitude of Fukushima, and I'm serious. So Professor B has spoken about this in the Men's Journal. He's on record saying that the possibilities or the risk in San Pedro due to this facility is extraordinary. So We're just asking you guys. We know that the limitations, there's a big, huge void as it pertains to butane and propane gas facilities and above tank structures. We need to do something about this. This is a massive problem that people keep burying. We've got a long history. There's a lot of work to do. We need to get started before the inevitable happens. Thank you.
Right, no, thank you very much.
Can you repeat the name of the facility again?
Rancho Holdings, LPG, or Rancho Holdings Limited, LTD. It's a limited partnership.
Liability Corporation.
Limited, LLC.
No insurance.
Got it. Thank
you very much. I appreciate your...
That concludes public comment on the item. Is there any...
Could I get permission?
If you have any documents you'd like to submit, you can give those to the clerk.
Give you what?
You can give any documents if you'd like to the clerk or to the sergeant. Thank you so much. And do any of my colleagues have any additional questions? If not, then we'll go ahead and thank the fire department for their exhaustive work in putting this together as well, and working with CD15 as well to put the information online. And it always is a more complicated process than it appears. And we'll go ahead and send this with the recommendation to the full City Council. That'll be the recommendation without objection. That item is moved. On the final, on the special, is I believe, the contract for Erickson Aircrane, the Hella tanker, for a 5-year contract. That was already part of the original budget. This was just approving, and so therefore there's no additional budgetary impact. This is just approving the contract, the extension. Correct?
This is in the new contract.
I'm sorry, the new contract, not the extension, right. The new contract. Okay. Any questions from my colleagues on this? One question on this. When we house it and it's dedicated solely for us, correct?
Correct. We do have agreements where we can lend it out on a contract basis.
Okay, and it's housed out of Air Ops in Van Nuys, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And because it's also a heavy lift, right? It's not just the helitanker. It could be used for heavy lift, is that?
Well, it's used for different purposes.
For different purposes. So if it's contracted out during our 5-year contract, if it's subleased, if you will, do we get reimbursed or do they pay them directly, or how does that work?
During the 150-day period that we have it each year, it is exclusive to the fire department, and we have control over it, and it's strictly for firefighting purposes during that period of time. It is not used for any other heavy lift purpose.
Mm-hmm. And what if it's used in a mutual aid and in another jurisdiction for mutual aid?
So that would be at their request and our approval to send it out, and there is a cost reimbursement to us for it's an hour-by-hour reimbursement.
Okay. And have we utilized it in the past under that scenario?
Yes, we have.
And have we been reimbursed 100% of cost recovery in those situations?
I don't have specific knowledge.
Okay. Can you find that out, and when this comes to council, just share that information?
Absolutely.
That'd be great. So while we're paying for this, and it's under the lease agreement, if you will, or it's actually not a lease, but it's a contract for service. And so while we have it in our possession and contract for service, if there's another situation in another jurisdiction that requests it because it's the closest thing, or we're sending everything out, all of our resources and apparatus and air ops out to that jurisdiction, we then, under the mutual aid agreements, get reimbursed either from that jurisdiction and or, depending on the situation, the state of California, and or, depending on the situation, the federal government, on what level it reaches at what disaster levels. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And so my question was, if we're paying this and another jurisdiction utilizes it, which is a good thing, and mutual aid is a wonderful thing, that works well, are we in fact actually tracking it, and have we been reimbursed full cost recovery in those scenarios? Okay, terrific. No other questions from any of my colleagues, then we'll go ahead and improve that item and send that on to the council for the next available council agenda. That will conclude the special. We'll adjourn the special, return to the regular agenda, and there's no other items on the regular agenda. There's no additional public comment cards, and that will conclude the agenda and the committee. We are adjourned. Thank you.